What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Today is Monday. I got some great questions lined up. Let's get right into it. Now, the first question comes from Sword Mask. Yo, Ego, even though Mayweather has showed that he can adjust to any style, who do you think will give him the most trouble as of right now? Very good question. In my opinion, I would say Keith Thurman, Kell Brook, at 147, and if we're talking 154, I would say a guy like Edeslandi Lara and Demetrius Andre. Now, the reason being is Kell Brook has a very good jab. He's strong. He's very big for welterweight, and he has power. And I feel Kell Brook is he's a solid all-around boxer, so he's not going to make some of the same mistakes a less refined fighter like a Ruslan Provatnikov would make, which would create more openings. He doesn't use his feet a whole hell of a lot, but he does get into position, a couple angles and things like that. Keith Thurman, he's just young, kind of has that young, I won't be denied type of personality. I do think he has power, so that would be a good fight. So out of the batch of people at 147, I see those two being the biggest, and then the threats at 54. I just think 54 is Mayweather fought there 2.5 times. De La Hoya, Cotto, and then the Canelo at the 152. So I think that's going a little bit out of his comfort zone, if you will, since he hasn't campaigned up at 154. And Lara is a big, rangy southpaw, beautiful left hand. Demetrius Andre, 6 foot tall southpaw. And these are both really good boxers. So that's what I would pick if I would say who gives him the most trouble. And that's just because of youth, power at 147, and just overall good boxer, puncher type of characteristics. And then the guys at 54 that I mentioned, just because they're a bit bigger and they're slick, rangy southpaws. Next question is from Vontae123. Do you think Broner can become 4-division champion? I do. I think he can, because he already became one at 147, so that means he can become one at 140. Now, Danny Garcia is going to face Paulie Malignaggi. I reported that on the Ego rumor mill, and I don't know if it's been official, but I'm hearing good indications that that fight is happening, which would mean him as lineal middleweight champion is going to probably vacate all his belts. You know what I mean? He can't hold them hostage and go to a new division. I think he feels he's outgrown 140. So there's going to be a gang of belts available. Now, the one thing that I do want to wait and see is Broner has a tough fight this month with Shawn Porter. Even though it's at a catchweight, it's still a tough fight. And depending on the outcome of that fight, like if he gets dogged or if he gets bullied like he did versus Maidana, then his chances of becoming a 4-division champ might go down. Not saying he can't do it, but bouncing back from a second loss is might be hard, especially if the loss is suffered anything close to the Maidana loss. So I'm anxious for June 20th to see how his performance is. I do think he can. I think there'll be a lot of opportunities, especially if the Shawn Porter fight goes smoothly. Then he'll have the flexibility of going back down to 140, fighting for some of Danny Garcia's vacant belts and that kind of thing. So I definitely think it's possible for the young Broner to become a 4-division champion. Next question is from Giselle X. I'm asking a few of my favorite YouTubers to address the following topic. I sometimes wonder about the father-son, father-trainer combinations, the Guerreros, the Porters, the Gamboas, the Garcias, etc. Sometimes the boxer need trainers who can take them to another level, but they are loyal to their fathers. I also think that their fathers get overly emotional, talk too much, and often lack objectivity. Even though Floyd Mayweather is undefeated in the past, he and his father has had a very tempestuous relationship that is well documented. What are your thoughts on the appropriateness or lack thereof of fathers training their boxer sons? Wow. Very good question from Giselle. And I mean, for me, I think oftentimes, probably more often than not, the relationship doesn't work at the elite level. I mean, I could think of more tandems or duos in the father-son realm that doesn't really work out than I can of successful training duos. And I think there's a few reasons for that. Like Robert Guerrero, I think one of his biggest flaws as he moved up in welterweight, he started fighting kind of like his dad talks about, like, oh, he's a warrior. Mayweather ran. He's scared. He's a chicken, bro. Like all of that. And that's not good for a guy who jumped up all them divisions and is used to fighting in the lighter divisions. Now you're fighting bigger men and you're trying to fight on this machismo tip. So little things like that, like you said in your comment, just the emotions of it. There's just a lot of emotions. I mean, even if you're seeing your son get pummeled, that might hit you more than another trainer. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? You might be more quick to throw in the towel or something and not give your son hope because you don't want to see your seed getting hurt. So there's a lot of different emotional attachments and problematic things that can happen with the father and son training duo. And like like you said, Mayweather and Floyd Sr., it kind of ruined their relationship at one point. It was documented on the 24/7, and then they were separated and they didn't really deal with each other. So yeah, it just ultimately, there's a lot of, anytime you're close to somebody, it becomes difficult because you have to try to attempt, and most people aren't good at this. Most people aren't Hollywood actors, or they can't curb their emotions, like you said. So it just becomes very difficult for a lot of people to contain themselves and not look at it. And some people, like Sean Porter and Kenny Porter, they look like they have a good time. But maybe if Sean Porter was with somebody else, and this is no disrespect to Kenny Porter, but I'm just saying, hypothetically, let's say Sean Porter was with somebody else who he respected, they might be able to bring something else out of him. You know what I mean? Because it's a fresh set of opinions, it's a fresh set of eyes, and they may be able to improve something with Sean Porter's game. Whereas his father, I don't know his father's background other than bringing his son up. You know what I mean? I don't know who else he trained, that kind of thing. So it's a tricky gray area, and if the fighters are happy and they're winning, so be it. But I just think in the grand scheme of things, more often than not, there would be people who, if they had moved to a different trainer at the right time, before it gets too late, before they get dead set in their ways, it would probably be more beneficial to them, you know what I mean, to branch out and work with different trainers. But it's not only about trainers. I think the trainers play a part in a pivotal role in a fighter, but the fighter has to still be good as well. But I think oftentimes the father and son duo just doesn't work. Like Robert Guerrero, he's one that's on the hot seat right now after in some of people's opinion, 2 back-to-back losses. A lot of people thought Martinez won. Either way, it wasn't an impressive performance by him. So it's just kind of like, where does he go from here? This was supposed to be your showcase fight, and you struggled with it. So little things like that. So if they like it, then who am I to judge? But from what I've seen, I haven't seen that many successful father-son. Even the Floyd Sr., even though he's undefeated and stuff, Roger was there for a lot of his big fights, and that's his uncle. So his father wasn't even there for all of them. His father was kind of at the beginning and at the end of the career, but that whole middle stretch was Roger. You know what I'm saying? So I haven't seen a father and son tandem that was just successful all the way throughout, you know what I mean, without a bunch of roadblocks. And who knows, some of those roadblocks may not have occurred if they had a different trainer. That's just my opinion. Next question is from Naima Itzham. Hey, Ego, do you think Khan displayed a poor performance against Algieri on purpose so he could get Floyd believing that Khan is not as much of a threat and that he should be next in line for September? Now, I personally don't believe that. I'm not really big on conspiracy theories and stuff like that. Even if that was to be the case, then it's a dumb game plan. I don't believe this, oh, I let this guy take free swings and punch me, unless your name is Ricardo Mayorga or something, like when Golovkin said he did that versus Monroe to entertain, or like this example, Khan basically having a subpar performance just to lure somebody in. You might, if anything, you might do that to a fighter, like in fight, like Muhammad Ali used to do the rope-a-dope and play possum and stuff like that. So you might do little forms of trickery like that in fight, like make your opponent think you're I've even seen Canelo do that a little bit, where it looks like he's like super fatigued and he's drained and he has nothing, like, and then he'll just explode with energy. So I've seen fighters do that in fight, where in fight they'll try to appear weaker than what they are, and then they'll start coming back with powerful counters and stuff like that. But I don't see why you're going to risk your whole performance, because you have to look at it like this. If you blow Chris Algieri, if Khan were to blow Chris Algieri out of the water, then that strengthens his chance of getting a Mayweather fight. But if you look suspect and you look shitty in your performance versus Chris Algieri, then you might take yourself totally out of the equation, out of the Mayweather sweepstakes. So I don't believe that Khan was appearing to be more vulnerable than what he really is in order to trick anybody, because again, it just doesn't make any sense. If you look great, then no one can deny you look great. You know what I mean? Like Pacquiao beat up on Brandon Rios. There's not really many people that are willing to dispute that. But if he were to have a tough fight with Marquez, that's because Marquez made it a tough third fight, or whatever the situation is. He's not going to look vulnerable and then not get a potential bigger fight in the future because he didn't look great in his current fight. So I don't believe Khan was purposely looking weaker than what he was. I think Algieri just had a good game plan. It caught Amir Khan off guard. He thought he was probably going to, I think he underestimated him. He thought he was going to walk over Chris Algieri like, oh, I seen what Pacquiao did to him. I have these tools and I'm faster than Pacquiao at this point, and probably feeling himself. And then it turned out to be more of a scrap and more cagey than he expected. So he had to adjust. But I don't think he was trying to appear vulnerable for Mayweather or anybody else. He was vulnerable because Chris Algieri came to fight, and I think it caught him off guard how game Chris Algieri really was. Because that's the thing. When a lot of people, and I told people this, when Floyd was fighting Pacquiao, there's so many people that go around saying Floyd's a bitch, he's scared of Pacquiao for 5 years. People start to really believe that. I'm sure Pacquiao believed that. Oh, Mayweather can't punch. He's scared of you, Pacquiao. He's ducking you for 5 years. And then when you get in the ring, and then they probably hit harder than you expected, or they're not fighting you scared, then it's like, oh shit, I'm not expecting that. So same thing with Chris Algieri. People drug his name through the mud and said he can't crack an egg. He's pillow-fisted. He got knocked down 6 times. He's the great white hope, and he's not good. And then Amir Khan got a rude awakening because he was better than what Khan anticipated and prepared for. Khan's body didn't look like he was in great shape, so he probably just underestimated it, thinking it was going to be easy work, and it wasn't. That's what I really think happened. Next question is from the NYC Baller. Does Guerrero's poor performance undermine Thurman's win? Guerrero was even competitive with Kamagai before the Thurman beatdown. No, I don't believe that. I think you have to go by case-by-case basis, and you have to look at these fights when they occurred. And when they occurred, Robert Guerrero, I think, had 2 losses, one to Mayweather, which is to be expected, if you will. And then the other one was early in his career. I think he switched trainers, and then he had a bad performance, and then he avenged that loss by knocking that guy out. I forgot the dude's name. So at the time, Guerrero, he was doing pretty solid at welterweight. He had beat Selçuk Aydin, beat Berto, lost to Mayweather, beat Kamagai, and then he fought Keith Thurman, I believe. So, I mean, he had won all of his welterweight fights minus the Floyd Mayweather fight, which was, again, to be expected. That everybody who's fought Floyd, great former champions, current champions, all that, undefeated guys, they've lost to Floyd. So that's not really much of a shame. Keith Thurman was, on the other hand, the guy who hadn't fought nobody, who was overrated in some people's eyes, and he was the one that had something to prove in that fight. So I think Thurman did his thing, and you can't take away because Aaron Martinez did his thing too and looked good after the fact. Because at the end of the day, I personally believe that Keith Thurman softened Robert Guerrero up and he came back. So after seeing Aaron Martinez, a guy with 4 knockouts, I mean, you have to look at just simple mathematics. Had there been no Keith Thurman performance, do you think Aaron Martinez would have been as successful? It's possible, but Robert Guerrero showed a good beard. I mean, even a guy with Keith Thurman clearly has more power than Aaron Martinez, right? And he didn't get his knocked down until later in the fight. And Aaron Martinez got an early knockdown with 4 knockouts. So I don't think it was just because Aaron Martinez's style. I think Robert Guerrero, the beating and the punishment he took in the Thurman fight, and he fought him in March, and then he came back very quick and fought in June. It just was probably too soon to come back. He endured a lot of punishment, probably messed up his confidence. And then on top of that, Aaron Martinez had a good game plan, and he was staying on top of Guerrero, and that's what caused the knockdown. But I mean, I think you can't undermine Thurman's performance, because in my opinion, Thurman's performance paved the way for Aaron Martinez to have success. You know what I'm saying? And there's been plenty of guys like that. You know what I mean? Where they start taking a bunch of losses. Like you look at, that's like saying Victor Chinian, Jesus Cuellar just knocked him out. But Nicholas Walters knocked him out before that. Donaire knocked him out twice before that. So you don't go back and undermine Donaire, his first knockout or his second knockout even, versus Victor Chinian, because Jesus Cuellar knocked him out after the fact. Because had it not been for Donaire knocking him out and Nicholas Walters knocking him out, then he might have been on a different level and had more confidence or whatever, took less punishment, had better punch resistance, to the point where Jesus Cuellar, he might have been able to outbox him, because he was actually outboxing Jesus Cuellar until late in the fight. Second part of your question, does this mean the Collazo fight will tell us more about Thurman than the Guerrero fight? I don't think so, but I do think it can. People are sleeping on the fight. I'm not saying it's the great fight that I would want. I mean, obviously a Mayweather-Thurman fight, Thurman-Brook, Thurman-Khan, those are all fights that anybody who's a diehard boxing fan would probably pick over Collazo. But not every fight is going to be your toughest fight. And the thing with PBC and Al Heyman, with their business plan, they're building stars. If you notice, in between the PBC events, they're showing previews for, oh, hi, I'm Sean Porter. Hey, I'm Adrian the Problem Broner, and I'm fighting June 20. You know what I'm saying? They're trying to create and bring these fighters into the living rooms and the homes of the boxing fans and just, you know what I mean, the public. So they're keeping these guys active, and they're trying to build them up. So every fight is not going to be this blockbuster mega fight, especially with that game plan. And I'm okay with that. If these fighters are fighting active, then it's not really a problem. You know what I'm saying? If Keith Thurman, if we're only seeing him once a year, then fuck that. I want to see him fight Kell Brook, that one fight. But if he's going to fight 2, 3, 4 times a year like Triple G, then you got to cut him some slack. Triple G's in the same boat. He's fighting active, but he's not fighting the names that I want to see him fight. But I have to give him credit, because he's at least fighting everybody and making everybody look bad, and he's fighting actively 3, 4 times a year. So as long as they're active, that's good for the fighter, it's good for the fans, and not every fight's going to be tough. I think Collazo can show us a few things. Collazo, I don't think, has ever been stopped, and he's a southpaw, so it's not as bad of a fight as some people make it out to be. But I think both fights are telling, just to see what Keith Thurman brings to the table. So Guerrero was telling for its time, and this will be a continuation of that. Next question is from Damian Benitez. Ego, can you explain the ballooning up in weight of these fighters like Maidana and Broner? I really don't understand how a guy who fights at 140, 147 and goes up as high as 200 pounds, do they gain weight quicker because they're athletes, or are they going nuts on their off time? I think it's a combination of different things. The number one thing is lack of discipline, and a lot of fighters don't live the fighter lifestyle. And you have to keep in mind this modern age of boxing versus past generations of boxing. A lot of the boxers are fighting out of their walking around weight class by a lot. Like, I've seen guys who clearly weigh like 176 in their off season, and then they'll cram their bodies down to 140 or something crazy. You know what I mean? A lot of these guys have the frame. I mean, Robert Guerrero, even, he was fighting in some lighter divisions, and now he's fighting at welterweight, and he's 5'10" or so. So imagine that, being 5'10", and you're cramming down into these low weights and stuff like that. So I think the biggest thing is the lack of discipline. A lot of these guys don't live the fighter lifestyle year round. What they do is they live. It's almost like somebody. This is the best analogy I can give you. It's like somebody who has a job, right? And they save. They save a lot of money. They get a paycheck. They save. They get a paycheck, deposit it, save a lot, and then spend some. Versus somebody who lives paycheck to paycheck, and it's just like, oh, I'm dead broke until I get paid again because I ran through this money. That's how some of these fighters treat their weight. It's paycheck to paycheck. They wait for the fight to get in shape. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm just doing whatever. I'm drinking, smoking weed, or you know what I mean, whatever they do in their off season. And then when they get the call, like, oh, hey, we need you to fight Sean Porter, we need you to do this, then they go out and get ready for it. And to the fighter's credit, I will say this: boxing is a brutal sport. So when you aren't training for a fight, I mean, you want to eat some steak or mac and cheese or whatever. So it takes a lot of discipline in training camp. So that's one reason why guys like go crazy in their off season, because you have to be so disciplined. Some people don't even have sex during training camps, things like that. So it does require a lot of discipline. But unfortunately, some people don't have a balance where it's like you said, they're ballooning up in weight. They don't have any discipline. They can be real strict in their training camp or let everything go in their off season. And a lot of people have that kind of Ricky Hatton type of mentality where they just gain way too much weight in their off season, which is not bad or not good for your body, especially as you get older. The other thing is genetics. Genetics plays a huge part in your weight. You know what I mean? Some people are prone to obesity or diabetes or whatever the situation is. If you look at Broner's dad is like portly, like real fat. And I think he has the genetics to be, I mean, they're not tall guys. They're short. He has probably the genetics where his metabolism might not be as fast as some people think, but him being an athlete, he's pretty well in shape. But I can imagine even Broner, like let's say he retires in a few years or a couple of years or whatever, I could picture him getting real fat. Like, you know what I mean? Like how you look at Prince and Asim now, you're like, damn, this dude is fighting at featherweight. I could picture Broner like that, like just where he just looks so much bigger than what I remember. Eric Morales looks real big right now. Different things like that. But Broner, I think his genetics is a part of it, and that just means you have to be even more strict, or you have to be stricter on yourself. So I think, like you said, I think it's because they are going nuts on their off time more so than anything, and not being disciplined. Next question is from Obed Giusti. I'm pretty sure I slaughtered that. Hey, Ego, do you think Miguel Cotto took Daniel as a tune-up because of the long layoff, or is it just because he wants nothing to do with the top middleweight fighters? Also, after seeing how Chris Algieri... let me answer the first part of your question. Yeah, I do think that. I mean, I don't know. He's been on a decent layoff since Sergio Martinez. Plus, he don't want to fight the more dangerous fights. I think he does want to fight Canelo because that's a big money fight. And I think at this point in his career, he's about that moolah, and he wants to make these A-side type power moves. And if it's not going to be that, he's going to take a lower risk fight where he can look like he did versus Daniel Gill at a catchweight and set up an even bigger fight. So I think it's business with Cotto. Second part of your question. Also, after seeing Chris Algieri hurt Khan, laugh out loud, I don't think Khan has a chance with any of the top welters. Even Mayweather can knock this guy out. What do you think? Keep doing what you're doing. Ego. Much love from Seattle. Shout out to Seattle. Y'all got some. Y'all started Starbucks. I'm about to go get a Starbucks. Yeah, I mean, after watching the Khan, man, it was a shock, because it made me really reevaluate Khan. Like, it kind of sounds like you're in the same boat. Like, the fact that Chris Algieri, off of a loss, moving up in weight, fighting a style that's not really his style, and he hurt Khan in the first round, that opened my eyes, man. Like I obviously everyone says the Khan has a glass chin thing, but I didn't think it was like that, like to the point where Chris Algieri would hurt. And some people are gonna probably blow this out of proportion, but Chris Algieri, I really don't feel if he fought the top guys, like if he were to fight Maidana, I don't think he's hurt Maidana at all. Like I don't think he'll punch Maidana in the face and then all of a sudden Maidana's like in pain. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't think he'll fight Sean Porter and produce that. Kell Brook, none of the top guys. I don't think Chris Algieri will hurt none of them. So I think that's kind of a testament to kind of Khan's chin in that regard. So to me, it made me really evaluate stuff. Fights with Lucas Matisse, fights with Ruslan Provodnikov even. All those are dangerous fights for Khan at this point because Ruslan shows time and time again he could be outboxed, but it just goes to show you that if your chin is not reliable, then you're always a target, you know what I mean? And it's always going to be that roller coaster. Khan could outbox Ruslan Provodnikov for 12 or 11 rounds, or even, you know what I mean, into the 12th round. And Ruslan Provodnikov has showed power late. He made Timothy Bradley, I think, take a knee in the 12th round. So, I mean, anytime you don't have a chin that you can count on, your game, you know what I mean, the person's in the game the whole time. So I don't know, man. The top welterweights a lot of them are killers. Keith Thurman, Kell Brook, they're guys that can hit. And even Mayweather, a lot of people sleep on it, but do what you want. Mayweather's accurate. And again, you can't tell me personally that if Chris Algieri can hurt you, then Mayweather can hurt you. Period. You know what I mean? Because Mayweather's been fighting bigger guys, and he obviously has something because these guys are bigger and stronger than him, the Maidanas. The Maidana should just run through him if they don't feel his punches. Period. If his punches tickle and all that shit that they say about Floyd Mayweather, then walk through him, walk him down, and be the first to beat him. You know what I'm saying? So obviously he's doing something. Plus, I think Mayweather, some of his power comes from speed. He has like more of a stinging power because it's being delivered accurately with speed. So yeah, I do think Mayweather or any other top welter definitely can hurt Khan, and that's kind of why we watch Khan fights, because no matter what, anything can change at any minute. He could be boxing smart like Danny Garcia and then be on the canvas in the next round. So that, I mean, that's just honestly, after seeing him hurt by Algieri, it made me reevaluate things. Next question is from Eric Shipman. What's your opinion of Deontay Wilder and his chances against the top heavyweights? Now, I think Deontay Wilder, he's a good fighter. I do question his chin at times, but this is the thing. The dude's like 6'7". You have to get to that chin. And I really do believe in his power. He has freakish power. The one dude, Likowitz or something like that, I think he had like a Ukrainian name or something. And he was literally having a seizure on the ground after he got knocked out almost. His legs were kicking like he was having a bad dream, a nightmare. So I think Deontay Wilder has tremendous power. He's working at his craft. He's hungry. He's athletic. He's in shape. He has pretty good speed for a heavyweight. So, I mean, he's game with anybody. Because at the same time, who has a great chin in current heavyweights? Bermane Stiverne, but he already beat him. You know what I'm saying? Because Vladimir Klitschko don't have the best chin either. Tyson Fury got knocked down by Steve Cunningham, who had came up from cruiserweight, and he got knocked down. So, I mean, at the end of the day, even if I question Deontay Wilder's chin, not many people have shown me elite level skills with a great chin in the current modern. Like Evander Holyfield had a chin. Mike Tyson had a chin before he, you know what I mean, stopped taking boxing serious or whatever. Lennox Lewis, like, you know what I mean, there's a lot of guys would in the past that had pretty good chins. So now it's about, you know what I mean, you have to get past that power. You have to even get to his chin. And with that type of wingspan, he's always going to be a threat, always dangerous. Anthony Joshua is another person that I'm watching that I really like. But at the same time, he hasn't fought nobody. So he hasn't fought nobody that would even test his chin. If he fights like a Dillian White, a David Price, Tyson Fury, guys like that, then that'll show me a little bit more about Anthony Joshua's chin, so I can see where his chin is. So Deontay Wilder is definitely a force. He became champion, so I'm pretty sure that his confidence grew. So I like his chances against any of the top heavyweights. I mean, if anybody could beat a Klitschko, it would be someone like him who can match him in the reach department, the height department, who's not being dwarfed by the Klitschkos, stuff like that. Next question is from Cesar Garza. What does this mean for Cotto's career? He is a middleweight champion, but making them come down. Does this look bad for his career, acting like a diva? Some would even say cherry picking. They trash Mayweather, but people say it's okay for Cotto to fight anybody he wants. Needs a big win over a big name. I mean, see, this is the thing. I don't base boxing. I'm a fair critic. I'm not going to say Cotto's career is shit and Cotto's a bitch and some of the stuff that I read in the comment section, because Cotto is still the man. He still has a hell of a resume. He's done tremendous things in boxing. Definite first round Hall of Famer. He just is at a point where it sounds like he wants to be the A side, and he is acting diva like. But again, you can't wash everything he's done in the sport. Shane Mosley victories and fighting Pacquiao and Mayweather, even though he lost those fights, avenging his Margarito loss. You can't. That doesn't get trumped because of what he's doing fighting Daniel Gill at the catchweight. So I put it in perspective. Cotto's still a great fighter. He's still an elite fighter. But I will say, I do think he's acting like a diva. People do say they want Mayweather. Mayweather got to fight this guy. And then he fights Canelo when he's undefeated. And then that's not good enough. Then they say, oh, you're still ducking Pacquiao. You've been ducking him 5 years. Then he beats him easy. And then they buy shoulder injuries and don't give him credit for that. So I do want to see Cotto fight just like he was fighting in the past. Fighting the names that will get him the respect, especially as the lineal middleweight champion. So, and I mean, that's the standard I would hold anyone to that I consider elite. Like, if you're a bum, you're a bum. Cotto's not a bum. That's why we hold him to this high standard, because we want to see him do well, and we want to see him test himself and see how good he really is at this point of his career, things like that. So I do want to see him against a Canelo, Triple G, or even one of the guys at 54, Demetrius Andrade, Edeslandi Lara. These are all good fights. Let's see it, Cotto. So again, I'm not like, people did this to Danny Garcia too. When as soon as they didn't like their decisions or the way his career was heading, they said he was a bum. You can't do that. That's not right. You can't say Danny Garcia has a shit resume beating guys who were supposed to beat him, like Lucas Matisse, Amir Khan, Eric Morales, when Danny Garcia was the challenger. So I'm not gonna shit. It doesn't mean anything to Cotto's career in terms of it erases the good things he has done, but it does. You don't want to. Who wants to end their career? If you had an illustrious career, it's just like, let's say there's a great actor like Robert De Niro, great American actor, right? And he's done classic after classic. Goodfellas. He was in The Godfather. And he Taxi Driver. All these, Casino, all these great movies. Analyze This or whatever, right? And then let's say at the tail end of his career, he starts doing direct to DVD, like B movies and shitty movies like Killer Clowns from Outer Space and all kinds of stuff like that. It's not a good, you're not capping off your career in the right way, in my opinion. So, you know what I'm saying? It's like I said, I don't want to see Robert De Niro doing all these cheesy like movies looking like he got $500 to act in this movie. So same thing with Cotto. You're in the fight business. You've done a lot of great things, so keep it up. You know what I mean? Like, who wants to see you go out like you're getting to the end of your career, last couple fights or whatever? Who wants to see you go out doing the opposite of what you did to get to this point? So that's my thoughts on Cotto. I do want to see him fight a name and the type of fights that will give him the elite. Because Abel Sanchez said this, and I was really thinking about this. He said he lost to all his elite names. He lost to Antonio Margarito. He lost to Austin Trout, who was undefeated at the time. And I'm not saying that Austin Trout's this is Abel Sanchez's words anyway. Mayweather and Pacquiao. So I don't think he lost to everybody elite. You know what I mean? He beat Shane Mosley. Josh Clottey was disputed. Zab Judah, he beat him. So DeMarcus Corley, you know what I mean? So he has some good names on his resume. Paulie Malignaggi, Randall Bailey. He has good names on his resume, but we want to see him keep it up. Do what got you here. Like, don't just all of a sudden switch up. And the final question, Boxing Phenom 95. How would you imagine a Mayweather-Paul Williams fight playing out? That's a real good question, and I'm a huge Paul Williams fan. My brother got me on him, so shout out to the Punisher. Very unfortunate what happened to him in his accident. I think that would be probably one of Mayweather's most difficult fights. Reason being, Paul Williams is like 6 foot, 6'1". He's tall, he's rangy, and he has a high volume of punches. In the past, you could say like some black fighters have given Mayweather some pretty good fights. Emmanuel Augustus, DeMarcus Corley troubled him at spots. Zab Judah, Shane Mosley rocked him in that one round. So Paul Williams in his prime, that would be a very difficult fight. And I reckon a guy like Paul Williams, Tommy Hearns would be the style, if you think about it, a style that would give Mayweather a ton of problems. Guys who are tall, guys who have heart. Paul Williams, even though he got knocked out by by Sergio Martinez, Paul Williams had a chin. He went the distance with Margarito, beat him, things like that. So I think Paul Williams had a good chin. He just got caught, and his activity rate, his work rate, and his range would be a problem for Mayweather. Especially like even in the shoulder roll, anyone with arms that long in your division is a problem. And the other thing is he's throwing punches and punches and bunches. So that's something you would have to deal with. Good speed, lanky, rangy. Like I said, I could picture a guy like Tommy Hearns, Paul Williams, really bringing the fight to Mayweather and forcing him to fight. You know what I mean? A fight maybe he doesn't even want to fight. That kind of thing. Like just pushing him to the brink where he's going to have to dig down a bit. You know what I mean? That's what I really think. Paul Williams with his pressure, his length and reach and stuff like that. It's a really good fight. Wish we could have got to see that in his prime. And that wraps it up. Let me know how you guys think I did. Make sure you like my video. As always, hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video, it's Ego signing off.